Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian High School Diploma. This is our information session, which tells you so much about the Canadian High School Diploma program. All right, my name is Ravi Raghunath, and I'm your host this afternoon. And joining me for today's information session is we have Ishwar Dukran. Ishwar is the program manager. He recently started at CTS College, but he comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience in managing programs similar to this before. So I'd like to welcome Ishwar to our information session, as much as I'd like to welcome all of you to the session today as well. As I said, my name is Ravi Raghunath, and these are email addresses you could use to reach us at CTS College. Apart from these here as well, let's look at what we're going to cover in today's session. So today's session is meant to be engaging and interactive. So I want you guys to feel free to ask questions as we go along. You don't need to wait for us to get to the end to ask a question. You can ask a question as we go through the slides. If it's something that we're going to answer later on, I'll just mention it. But if it's not something we have on the slide, I'll gladly answer it at that point. Okay. Now, what are we going to cover in today's session? Well, today's session, we're going to talk about what is a Canadian High School Diploma and why should you consider doing a Canadian High School Diploma? And then why do it with CTS College and why OVS as well? OVS is the Ontario Virtual School, right? Then we look at how the program is structured and what you're going to cover, what will you learn as part of this program, how you're going to be assessed, the kind of support that is available to you. We'll also look at costing as well as a special offer we have for you guys today as well, and when you can start. And then in order to start, there's an application process. So we'll guide you through the application process as well, right? So those are some of the things we will be discussing in this session as well. Okay, great. So given that's the case, let's get in. But before we do, and before we talk about what is Canadian High School Diploma, if I may ask you guys, what are your reasons for signing on to today's session? What are you hoping to achieve in terms of if you were to pursue the Canadian High School Diploma? What is your end goal, right? Is it that you're looking at migrating? Is it that you're looking at starting a degree program? So you're looking at this as an alternative. What are your thoughts in terms of why you are considering this program or why you're giving it any consideration at all? Anyone want to share? Avery, anyone?
Yeah, sure, I can share. So basically, trying to see what this course has to offer so that I can leverage myself on an international platform, be it for university, be it for grad school. Where does this certificate leverage me and place me into that entrance criteria? Because I know up in the States, they have things like a GED if you don't have your high school diploma. Is this equivalency the same as a GED? And does that give me entrance into higher education?
Very good. And the answer is it gives you entrance into higher education, but we're going to cover all of that in today's session as we go through what is the Canadian High School Diploma, right? So that will be answered, but simply, yes, it is equivalent. So you can use this for entry into university.
And is that also country-wise? Can I go to England? Can I go to Canada? Can I go to the United States? Can I go to other countries? And is it recognized?
Very good. And okay, so the answer is yes, it is recognized, and you can use it as entry into many different schools and universities across the globe. It's just, for example, it's the same thing as if, let's say, you've studied in the US and you've completed your high school, you're ready to go into university, or you've studied in Canada and you've done your high school equivalent, and now you're ready to get into university. So your grades matter. So how well you do will determine the schools you get into as well. Naturally, to get into the premium schools, you need to have really high grades. But at the same time, yes, you can use it. You can use it to get into UK programs. So for example, we offer UK degree programs. So students who've completed this program can start at level 4, which is year 1 of those degree programs. And you could even use it to get into UE as well. So the answer is yes, you can use it to get into pretty much most universities, unless the university has a specific entry criteria. Generally, you can get into any university.
Okay, so I'm assuming probably this certificate coupled with the SAT might further enhance your opportunities?
Yes, it definitely will. Right. Okay. So remember, within certain countries, they may have some specific requirements as well that may be country specific. Right. So, but you'll have to look at those particular schools that you're interested in and determine what the entry requirements are. But by and large, the Canadian High School Diploma should be able to get you into most university programs globally.
Right, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. All right. Anyone else? Aziza, Kristen, Deshaun? Why are you guys considering this program?
So say if you don't want to go to a university and you just want to go Canada straight to work one time with the Canadian High School Diploma, you could do that.
Well, it helps you in terms of getting points, because when you're applying to go to Canada, like you're migrating and using the point system, it definitely helps in terms of accumulating points. This program alone may not be sufficient because you may have other requirements as well. It's the same way having a degree is going to give you points, but it may not be enough points. So there are other things to consider, but it definitely helps you in terms of getting points in terms of the process of migrating into Canada. Right? And having a Canadian qualification is ideal.
So that previous caller raised an interesting question. So some people may just want the certificate to have a high school diploma so that they can get a job, right? Now, for those specific situations, will that suffice an employer to say, hey, I see this, all right, you are qualified, you're a high school grad, I can hire you now. Will this suffice that criteria?
Well, and that's all going to be answered as well later today when we talk about the program, in that in Canada, the minimum requirement typically for job would be a high school diploma, right? So each job will have their unique traits or things that they require. So for example, a job may require you to have a degree, right? So if they want a degree, the diploma is not enough for that job. But if the job requires a high school diploma, and that's the minimum requirement, it's the same way, for example, in Trinidad, right? To get a job, ideally, someone should have at least a high school, completed high school, like CXC passes, etc. So this will be seen as the equivalent. So,
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yep,
All right.
thank you.
Welcome. Jackie, Jemuel, Kamini, Mr. Chad, any one of you or any other person as well, why consider this program?
Make more money.
I would agree.
Migrating.
All right. If you don't mind, in terms of if you can use the raise hand feature if you like, or you could use the chat. How many of you hoping to migrate? Like, so you're considering a Canadian qualification mainly for migration. Would you mind by using yes on the chat, etc.? The reason for this, when we are advertising, it's important to know what are the needs of our students so that we can target those needs when we're advertising, right? All right, cool. Gotcha. Thanks a lot. Well, let's look at the program itself, and let's look at some of the qualities of the programs. So what is a Canadian High School Diploma? Well, in Trinidad, when you finish high school, we'll do CSEC, right, which is O levels, and then you'll do CAPE, which is A levels, right? And in terms of, in Trinidad, we have the option of stopping at CSEC, right? CAPE is optional, which is A levels. In Canada, the Canadian High School Diploma is equivalent. It's equivalent of A levels in Trinidad, but it's basically the point at which you complete your secondary schooling. So in Canada, when you complete secondary school, you'll earn a Canadian High School Diploma. Now, in terms of the Canadian High School Diploma, it is, as I said, think of it as though you've completed A levels. Therefore, this program here is recognized by the Ministry of Education in Ontario, or the Ontario Ministry of Education. And the diploma is actually issued by the Ontario Ministry of Education. The OVS is simply a school that teaches the diploma. In much the same way in Trinidad, if I were to draw a parallel, when you write the CXC exam, the awarding body is CXC. However, you might be attending Presentation College, or Chaguanas North, or Couva East, or QRC, or CIC, or any other school for that matter, right? Those schools are simply teaching a program, but the program is actually awarded by CXC. In much the same way, when you do the Canadian High School Diploma, you might be attending CTS/OVS to do the classes. However, the qualification is issued by the Ontario Ministry of Education. So it's the very same qualification you would get if you were in Canada, in a full-time school in Canada. What OVS has simply done, they've taken that same the Ontario Secondary School Diploma program, and they've made it available to students online. And it has grown rapidly over the past few years, such that it's now available pretty much in several different countries around the world. And we'll talk about those as well. So I don't want you to feel as though this is simply a new program totally. It might be new to Trinidad, but it's being done by students across the globe, which I'll share with you in a bit, right? So the diploma is the minimum academic requirement when applying for jobs in Canada. So if you're looking at migrating and you don't have a degree, I would recommend considering a Canadian high school diploma, right? So if you don't have any recognized academic qualification, consider at least the Canadian high school diploma as your alternative. If you've done A-levels, then you may not need to do the diploma. But if you haven't considered A-levels, then I would recommend consider the Canadian high school diploma as an alternative, especially if you're migrating. Now, this program as well can help you increase your scores if you look at migrating to Canada. I believe it's 30 points I was advised by the OVS team for persons migrating to Canada. Now, why should you consider a Canadian high school diploma? This was the same question I've been asking you guys early on. And for many of you, we found at previous information session, the main reason is really migration seems to be the most popular option, right? And some people attend the session to learn more about the Canadian high school diploma. Others might be, as I said, they're looking at alternative option. They want to start their degree and they're looking at alternative option to keep or A-levels, etc., right? They may be considering progressing to a Canadian undergraduate program. So if you're looking at studying at a Canadian university, if you do the Canadian high school diploma, your chances are increased. What happens is, as well as that, in Canada, if you're trying to enter universities there without a Canadian qualification, there's a limited number of spots available for persons like those. So you are competing with people in many other countries for those limited spots. However, a lot more spots are available for persons with a Canadian qualification. So even though you're doing this program from Trinidad or any other country outside of Canada, you are treated as though you have a Canadian qualification. So you're fitting with the others, right? So there are many opportunities or more opportunities for you guys because there's a bigger pool available for candidates with a Canadian qualification to get into a Canadian university. Of course, at the same time, this is not just for progressing to Canadian university. You can actually use your Canadian high school diploma to progress into most university programs across the globe. You may just have to inquire with the university what are the specific requirements, but most universities as well will have general options because they are catering for people from many different countries. The same way, for example, if you're looking at studying at Oxford in the UK and you can enter with CAPE, right, from CXC, but you'll also have to satisfy their requirements as well, right? So it's the same way with the Canadian high school diploma. You'll have this, it's an entry requirement, but they would need some additional stuff as well, okay? And of course, it's an international diploma as well. Now, if you're going to do the program, why should you consider doing it with CTS? Of course, you could self-study the program as well. But of course, the cost is a lot higher if you choose to self-study it, right? But by going through CTS, here are some advantages you have. First of all, a bit about CTS. CTS College has been in education for over 22 years. We are a private institution, right? We are ACTT recognized. We are recognized by the Ministry of Education. We offer programs from preschool to primary to secondary to tertiary, including bachelor's and master's programs. Right? And we also offer a slate of certification programs or professional development programs. Right now, that number is approaching 60 and it's increasing steadily as well. But apart from these factual information here as well, we also have what I will call our bragging slide. And this bragging slide really tells you about our performance. And our performance really is a testimony or a testament to the kind of support we provide to our students. For example, as I indicated earlier, we offer a range of programs. And one of the programs we offer is the AB programs. We just recently, I think 2 weeks ago, we won 8 world prizes in AB for the March-June assessment session. We had more world prize winners than any other school offering the AB program throughout the globe. And there are over 200 schools offering the AB program. So for us to win the most world prizes in a particular session is really an amazing accomplishment. In fact, since 2015, we have been winning, or 2014, we have been winning more the most world prizes in Trinidad than any other school. In fact, in the Caribbean as well. We also have the record with AB for the most world prizes won in any given session. We had 13, that's a world record for the most world prizes won in any session by any institution. So we've won over 114 AB World Prize. And just to understand what a world prize is, a world prize is given to the student with the highest mark in a particular subject across the globe, right? So for a student in a small school located in a small country such as Trinidad, winning such an award is really an amazing testimony of our country, the kind of the academic standard of our country as well, but also to the student, their hard work and dedication and discipline, and also as well the kind of support that is provided by the college as well. So it's a combination of many different things that make a student a World Prize winner. We've also won prizes with the University of Hertfordshire. In fact, we've won over 50 university awards with the University of Hertfordshire. Just to note, the University of Hertfordshire programs are available on campus in the UK, but it's also available to students across the globe. You can enroll directly as an online student, or you can enroll through different schools like CTS College. Each cohort or each semester, there are students who are completing the program, and the top student in the program gets an award. We have won 50 top student award with the university. So imagine our students are outperforming the students on campus at the university as well as all the other schools offering the university program. So again, those things are testimony that not just in the AB program, but even with the University of Hertfordshire, we're winning similar awards as well. Now, not every awarding body provide awards. So we do offer other programs, but unfortunately, those bodies, they don't do awards. And because they don't have awards, we can't win awards if they don't have the awards, right? They don't recognize students in that regard. Apart from that, we also won 11 awards with ACTT for student support services. This is an amazing accomplishment. And locally, we have won more ACTT awards than any other school. We've won 6 for student support services. We won 3 for excellence for an established quality management system, and we won 2 for excellence in teaching and learning. The ACTT awards they've stopped it a few years ago, and that's largely because of budget constraints. So because the awards are a bit costly to recognize the school because you get prizes like plaques and trophies and stuff like that. But because of the sheer cost to recognize the schools, etc., they have discontinued the awards. But I felt it was such a wonderful thing to do because we were competing with giants such as UE, UTT, USC, etc. So to win awards, it's really an amazing accomplishment for us. And I feel like, it was a really big moment when we won our first award. All right. Now, why OVS? Because OVS is the school or the institution that is actually, they are the ones who are accrediting, well, once you're accrediting the program, that we are accessing the program through OVS, right? So let's learn a little bit about OVS. So OVS is in their 12th year of operation. 98% of their students are accepted into top ranking universities across the globe. They have a 45 plus domestic and international partners. So they have partners all across the globe, right? Just a second, I'm admitting a few persons. And, right. They have over 20,000 students. Now imagine you're just in your 12th year and you have this many students. That's really an amazing story to tell. If you check their reviews on Google, their review when last checked was 4.9 stars out of 5. That's really incredible to get those kind of ratings as well. And that's telling you about students who are really happy and satisfied with the service that is being provided. Now, they have issued over 40,000 OSSD credits. They have students in 114 different countries. So that's what I'm saying to you. You're not alone. Don't feel like, well, this program is new. It is new, maybe being promoted in Trinidad, but it's not new at all. There are students in 114 different countries who are actually undertaking this program. For many of you who might be aware, if you're looking at migrating, you're aware that in Canada, they advertise the fact that they are accepting professionals. And I think because Canada has a deliberate migration policy to accept professionals, you'd find that there are more persons in Canada who are degree holders than in any, well, they have the greatest percent of population who are degree holders than in any other country, which is incredible. And that's largely because they're really accepting persons who have professional qualifications into their country. So when you come, you're coming there to add value rather than coming there to basically sap from them kind of thing, right? So they're very smart about their pattern or policy. So in terms of OVS, it was founded in 2010. It's a fully online high school. So their courses are all totally online. So they don't have a physical school. However, they do have a physical location where the staff works, etc. The program is accredited by the Ontario's Ministry of Education, right? And the Ontario Ministry of Education provides the Ontario Secondary School Diploma. So at the end, what you are going to get is an Ontario Secondary School Diploma, which is a Canadian High School Diploma, and it is issued by the Ontario's Ministry of Education. Okay, now, as I said, over 40,000 course credits have already been completed by students as well. And it's one of the largest virtual high school in Canada. In fact, it's the fastest growing, and they average a 50% growth rate in the last few years. That's an amazing growth pattern to grow 50% each year. So now they have over 20,000 active students enrolled in their program. Of course, COVID may have hastened the process of growth as well, right? Now, why consider Canadian program? Well, Canada's post-secondary education population, right, is at 50%, and that's really high. They have the highest post-secondary qualified workforce than any other country. They have the highest post-secondary educated population in Canada. That's Ontario specifically. Ontario has the highest post-secondary educated population and 98% of post-secondary acceptance rate, right? With OVS, 90% of their students are accepted into top-ranking universities across the globe. As I indicated before, and just to reiterate, they have students in 114 different countries, and I'm sure that number has increased by now because each month they're getting new and new signups as well, and they're getting from many different countries. So there's this spread their wings. People from all over the globe are considering Canadian qualifications. Now, let's do a comparison of a Canadian high school diploma with A-levels, right? Now, in terms of global ranking based on the PISA study, the Ontario Secondary School Diploma is ranked 6th in the world compared to A-level. Now, this A-level is the UK A-level, which is higher ranked than CAPE, right? A-levels is 22nd, and the Ontario Secondary School Diploma is ranked 6th in the world. So from a global ranking and recognition perspective, it's really highly recognized. Here are some other advantages as well. You could complete the OSSD high school diploma in less than 1 year. In fact, we recommend 7 months to complete the program, right? Whereas A-level, you need 2 years to complete A-levels. In terms of the Ontario Secondary School Diploma, it's 70% of it is coursework and 30% of it is final exam. Whereas A-level, exam only. You do have the SBA component now, but the SBA component is small in relation to your overall mark. But what I like about the coursework is that it's very practical. And because of its practical nature, you're not just cramming for an exam, but you're learning and you're applying theories and stuff to solve problems. And that's what I love about it. So it's more practical. I've found that, you know, when courses are very much steeped in exams, you tend to spend more time cramming, but rather than learning and appreciating the course content. The good thing about it though is that because you could schedule your exam, so you only do your exam when you are ready to take it, whereas A-levels, you have fixed dates for exam. So whether you're ready or not, you have to do the exam on that date. With the Ontario Secondary School Diploma, you can choose to do one subject at a time, and when you're ready to write the exam, you sign up for it and you write it. Isn't that amazing? Because of that, you should have a much lower failure rate, because why would you want to write the exam if you're not ready for it, right? Whereas with A-level, you have to write the exam ready or not, right? And therefore, it tend to have a higher failure rate. In terms of graduation rate, the graduation rate for OSSD is way higher than A-levels as well. And university acceptance rate for the OSSD is 98% compared to A-level, which is 75%. So those are just some comparison charts. It's not to bring down any qualification, but it's just to help you to be able to compare, because we are familiar more with the A-level option because our curriculum has largely been based on the UK educational standards, and therefore the UK's qualifications are more popular in Trinidad than the Canadian one is. But at the same time, when you look at this, you realize, wait a minute, there's so much value to doing this program when things you probably didn't even consider. Now, some features of the program, as I indicated, all courses are accessible online and are delivered by Ontario certified teachers. So the persons who are delivering your program is an Ontario certified teacher who is delivering the course to you in an online environment. You can study at your own pace. So the classes are already recorded, and we will take a look at the environment, the online environment, a bit later on, but all the classes are pre-recorded, and you can study at your own pace. So for example, you're not available to do anything tonight, no problem. But if tomorrow you can, you click and you choose the lesson you want to learn, and you can stop when you're ready to stop. And you pick up again when next you're ready, right? Now, because you study at your own pace now, it fits into your busy lifestyle. So if it is that, you know, some months you have a lot of work to do, right? Well, you don't have to do much those months. And the months that you're freer, you can do more work in those months. Our typical school system doesn't cater for those because it treats everyone as equal and assume the same about your demands for your time. OSSD, you get the option to choose how much you want to do, when, and how long you want to take to complete a course as well. Pretty much. Now, just to know though, as much as I've indicated that, look, you can choose how long you want to take to complete a course. The truth is, when you sign up for a course, for a subject, you have a year in which to complete it, right? That's one subject. But at the same time, we don't recommend you trying to sign up for all one time. So I would recommend sign up for one, work on one, study one course only at a time, get it out of the way, and then start the next course. So you do one at a time. Whereas when you're doing A-level, etc., you may have to study multiple subjects at the same time. Here you get to choose how many subjects you want to study at a given time. So you have total control and autonomy over those things. And that's what I really like about the program. So in that way, you may not always be able to sense how your schedule, but the program gives you that flexibility to work with your schedule. These are some of the popular universities, the major Canadian universities that OSSD or OVS students are enrolled in, but these are just some, and this is not all of them. You might be familiar if you've been to Canada or you've considered studying at a Canadian university. These are some of the schools you might be familiar with, like University of Toronto, McMaster's, Waterloo, Seneca, Queen's University, etc. Right? So how is this program structured now? I did kind of mention a little bit about it, but let's do a comparison so that you can understand the structure of the program. Now, you're familiar with the Trinidad and the CXC qualification, right? In Trinidad, what do we use for secondary school? We use forms, right? So when in secondary school, you're in Form 1, Form 2, etc., right? In Canada, they use grades. So let's do a comparison with form, grade, and age. So for example, if you're in Form 3, that's equivalent to grade 9 in the Canadian system, and typical age is 14 years old. So a 14-year-old typically is in Form 3, who's in grade 9. A 15-year-old is in Form 4, or in grade 10 in Canada. A 16-year-old might be in Form 5, and which is equivalent to grade 11. And the final year of the Canadian High School Diploma is grade 12. Grade 12 is equivalent to Form 6. And the ideal age here is persons, 16 years older, right? So persons 16 years older can start directly into grade 12, or once you've completed CXC, CSEC, you could start grade 12 directly. So for persons looking at enrolling in this program, you don't need to start at grade 9 or 10, etc. Once you are 16 years older, you should be able to start over 16, or you've completed CSEC, you could start directly into grade 12, which is the final year. So you can save money by not doing the earlier years, and you only need to do grade 12 because of your age or previous academic qualifications, etc. All right. And based on that, the higher you start, the less courses you have to do, the less time it will take, and the less it will cost you, right? So in terms of how the OVS system works, they use credits. So every subject gives you credits, right? So each subject gives you a credit. Now, ideally, in order, for example, if a student has completed Form 5, you would be exempted from the lower grade. So if you've completed Form 5, you're starting directly at grade 12, and therefore you will be exempted. In fact, you'll be given 23 credit equivalents, so exempted from 23 credits. So you could start directly at grade 12. Now, within each level, there are mandatory courses and there are optional courses. Of course, if you have been exempted from a level, you don't have to do anything at that level. But when you're choosing your course, you must do the mandatory, and you can choose your optional courses. And there's a wide variety of optional courses to choose from. You may ask the question, well, how do I know which optional course to choose from? Well, the truth is that if you want to study, for example, if you want to study computing later on, then I would recommend do courses that are more tailored to the computing degree. So the courses you do in the OVS program should be based on what you want to study after. So for example, if you want to do a business degree later on, then study more business courses. If you want to do sciences, study more of the science or engineering, there are specific courses related to engineering. So you tend to do more of those, okay? We'll take a look at some examples, right? Now, this is a bit of the structure here. So if you're starting at grade 9, which is very unlikely because most of the persons we've liaised with so far are all looking directly into grade 12. So if you're doing grade 9, this is your grade 9 subjects, then your grade 10 subjects. Let me just change the pointer here, right? So if you're in grade 9, these are the subjects you do in grade 9, then you go to grade 10. These are the mandatory ones, and then you have 3 optional. If you go to grade 11, you'll have two mandatory and a science mandatory, and then you have 5 optional. And of course, if you go into year 6, you must do ENG for you and OLC 40, and you have 5 optional. If, however, but I'll skip these. Let's say you're starting directly into grade 12, you will be granted 23 credit equivalents, which means you're exempted from year 1, year 2, and year 3 courses. And you need to do, however, 7 courses in year 4, which is grade 12. So year 1 is grade 11, sorry, grade 9, year 2 is grade 10, year 3 is grade 11, and year 4 is grade 12. So you're starting at grade 12, and you'll be exempted from the lower grades, and you just have 7 courses to do, 2 mandatory, and the others are optional. However, those optional courses you should choose carefully based on what you want to study after, so that it bears relevance. Because if you want to start a business degree, it's good to study business early on so that you get a better feel for it. It's not that you must study business, but it is recommended so that when you're ready to get into the university, you have a business background already. So you're not entering a field that you've never studied before. So these are some examples of the specialisms available. Now, there are much more specializations than these, but for example, if you want to do life sciences, then you should consider doing English, advanced functions, calculus, and physics. So these 4 here, and chemistry. So these 5, my apologies, and do any other 2 optional courses. If you're doing engineering, you should do the same 5, as well as 2 optional, or computing, but if you're doing business, you'll want to do English, advanced functions, calculus, economics, international business, and 2 additional electives, right? If you're doing arts and social studies, then these are some of the options here, and you have other electives as well. So these are some of the areas you may want to study, right? If you're looking at studying later on, these are what you will typically do. Okay, so I hope you get an idea in terms of the courses. So there are 7 courses in total in grade 12. And ideally, you choose the courses based on what you want to study in university after. If you're uncertain, then no problem. Then you can mix your courses accordingly, right? So you don't have to do any one of these. You can choose, except for the mandatory ones, right? So according to this, the ENG for you and the OLC 40 are mandatory. So you do those, and then the others are optional. So you choose the optionals accordingly, okay? Now, this program is also considered an alternative to A-levels. In Trinidad, it takes roughly 2 years to complete your A-levels, and then you go on to your degree. So after Form 5, you spend 2 additional years to complete A-level, and then you spend 3 additional years to get your degree, which is typically 5 years. At CTS College, however, we have some options available for you. My recommendation is if you're looking at doing a degree, but not a Canadian degree, and you want to do even a UK degree, then we have options where you can enroll straight from CSEC into our degree program, and you can complete the degree, right, in less than 3 years, right? Now, the typical option though for persons who are looking at A-level as an option, then the Canadian high school is a suitable alternative to A-level. Why? Because A-level takes 2 years to complete. You can take as little as 7 months to complete the OSSD program. So therefore, in 7 months, you can start applying to university now for entry, whereas A-level, you'll have to take 2 years to complete it before you can start applying to universities, right? So you see the big difference as well. So you save a lot of time in terms of your university application, okay? Now, in terms of getting your Ontario Secondary School Diploma, what are the requirements to get the secondary school diploma? So do you just do this program with OVS and that's it? Well, let's take a look at the requirements. So to get an Ontario Secondary School Diploma, these are the requirements. 1, you must successfully complete 30 credits. Now, how do you get 30 credits? Well, let's take a look. You can get 30 credits by doing, if you start directly in grade 12, you'll get 23 equivalents. So you have 23 credits by starting here. And then the 7 here, 23 plus the 7 will give you 30. So you need to have 30 credits. So that's how you get your 30 credits, right? Next, you need to have some form of community involvement, because What the universities are looking for as well is persons who have volunteered their time and effort as well, rather than just strict academics. So how do you get community hours? Well, if you've done anything for someone, they can fill out a form to record it. For example, you cut the neighbor grass, or you have done, like you're active in your church, etc. So if you're involved in church, our community, or doing any projects with church, all of those could count as hours as well. So if you're teaching a Sunday school, or you work with youths, or whatever other stuff you might do, volunteer hours, all of those count. There's a simple form for you to complete to be able to get the recognized for the hours, right? It's not as, trust me, it's not like, it's not very difficult to get the hours. You can get persons to vouch for you that you've done the hours and what you've done, right? Okay, successful completion of the English literacy, which is the OSSLC, or the OLC 40 will be the equivalent, right? So that OLC 40 will be the equivalent of the completion of the English. So those are the different requirements to complete the Canadian, to get the Ontario Secondary School Diploma. So note, even though you've completed the courses with OSSD, you also need to have the community involvement, right? And the community involvement is where you've done stuff for people, right? At no cost. So ideally, they will just be able to vouch for it. And once they do, there's a form to fill out, and I think that should be sufficient. Okay. Now, what will I learn? Earlier on, I had a slide that guided you with some of the different things that are covered in the program. So let's take a look at what you learn. Well, there are over 160 courses for you to choose from, a very broad array to choose, right? So you can choose from science, business, computing, psychology, language, tourism, so much more. There's even a French immersion program available as well, right? So there's international language courses, etc. So there's so much available for you to choose from. So you're not restricted to just a small pool of subjects, but naturally, based on what you want to study after, I'll recommend that you study in line with what you want to specialize in later on, okay? Now, in terms of getting started, while if you're aware of the courses, you could go ahead and enroll directly on OVS. I would recommend maybe you arrange an appointment with us. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face appointment. We could just simply have a phone discussion as your appointment, if you want to call it that, where we discuss the courses, what is probably the best starting point. Now, I could tell you straight off the bat, I would recommend, right, the following. If you're starting this course, I always recommend start simple. So if you're starting, I would recommend with OLC 40. It's the easiest course of all of them, or it's considered to be the easiest one of all of them. It's English. And the thing is that it's not the same as university English, right? Or high school English, but it's more English-like. And therefore, it's at a lower level. And it's ideal for students as well who are looking at moving to Canada, because you need to have a level of equivalence in English, right? Or literate, you must be English literate. And this course is to prepare you for that. Now, given we are native speakers of English, this should be a much easier course for us because, we've done English all our lives. But my recommendation is start with this course. Start with one course and start with this course. Why? Always start with easy, because one, you're using it to learn the environment. You're also using it to figure out how your time is working in terms of the system, etc., right? And then you do the exam, so you get a feel of it, because you don't want to risk, so often when you complete a course and you realize, wait a minute, it had this feature here, and I didn't tap into it. So do those with the course that is the easiest first, and then you learn. So the more you use the system, the better you learn, the better off you are. So given that's the case, start easy and then work your way up. So you can do this one next, the mandatory course, and then after you've done your mandatories, then you do your optional last, because for the optional, you've done all the mandatories, so you know which ones you like the most, which area you prefer, and then you could choose your optional based on the areas you generally prefer, right? My other recommendation is study one subject at a time, which I mentioned earlier on, but I'll reiterate. The reason is, if you're working, doing one subject at a time is really to help you to fit it in to your busy lifestyle. We have often found when you're doing two subjects, you tend to focus on the one you like more, and the other one, the weaker one, remains the weaker one, because you're not really doing anything to make it change, because you keep studying the one that you like more versus the other subject. And then in the end, you put yourself at risk of failing. So my suggestion is study one subject at a time. So when you have to study, you don't have to figure out which subject to do tonight, boy, because you're only doing one subject. So that is answered already. Okay. All right. So in terms of the recommendation I would have indicated to you. Now, when you enroll in a course, you can complete it in as little as 4 weeks, as well as you can take up to 1 year to complete the course. So if you decide, look, I'm going to register and I'm registering for all 7 courses one time, then because you've registered for the 7, you have to complete all 7 within 1 year. Alternatively, if you only do 1 subject a year, you could drag this on to as long as 7 years to complete your grade 12, right? So my recommendation is do 1 subject and do it over a 1-month period, and every month you do another subject. So in 7 months, you complete your 7 subjects. Now, please note, I did indicate to you that, so as a result, within 7 months, you complete the program, right? Of course, you could do it in less time. You could do all 7 in 1 month and finish the whole program in 1 month if you wish. But I mean, that might be a bit tough, right? The other thing I want to talk to you about is the OBS platform as well. So we're going to take a look at the OBS platform. Now, it's an online platform, and what OBS has done, they spent a lot of money using various technologies. So they've done mixed reality and 3D technology as part of the learning, because it has suggested as well that, you know, look, mixed reality and simulations tend to increase learning by as much as 20%. So they are leveraging this to increase their student success rate. Apart from that too, it's self-paced and you can study at your own pace, right? If you could go over stuff over and over to your liking, you have people who are narrating the course for you as well, right? But it's all recorded, so you could choose how much you want to do at any given time, right? Apart from that, it's well designed. The user interaction and user interface is really nicely done. So you can actually track your progress through each of the subjects as well. Like in this particular subject, it tells you that you have 4 out of 6 evaluations completed, right? And points in October is 660 points, etc. Right? So it gives you an idea of your completion rate, so you know exactly where you are with it, right? And of course, if you're studying other subjects, you can see each one and giving you how many days are remaining and how far along you are with each one, right? So this is your dashboard that helps you to keep track of all your different courses, all right? Okay, so in terms of lessons now, each individual lesson, right? It looks a bit like this. So you have the lecturer at the top who's narrating through the slides. You have the slides with all the contents as well. And you could choose play like previous or next, and you'll be able to play each slide as you go along as well, right? And you could click when you're ready to go to the next slide. So if you don't understand something, you could go over it. In a live classroom, you can't tell the teacher, go over all the time, right? So, I mean, you might be able to, but in this environment, you don't have to worry what anybody's seeing or thinking. You can just go back and review to your liking. There's a variety of assessments as well. I did indicate here, when you compare it with A-level, you have the SPS, but you also have the bulk of your marks is in the exam. Here, it's the opposite. The bulk of your marks is with your assignments, and the exams are closer to the end of the course where you have, right? So in terms of your assessment, you have a variety of assessments, right, that you'll be considering, that you'll be given. Apart from that, all the textbooks, practice tests and exams, online tracking, etc., will be provided as part of the learning environment. So you'll have e-copies of your books. So all the materials you need are available online. Okay, so we'll take a look at an example of a lesson as well, so that you'll be able to see, right? So you get all these different resources available to you, not just the lecture notes, but also the textbooks, etc. So let's take a look at one of the lessons, right? So here, by the way, can you see the screen with, let me make sure if can you hear?
Shape emerges.
Are you hearing that?
Nature's building blocks, the atom.
Did you hear that, guys? Let me just reshare. You are hearing the video recording, not me, but the video recording, yes?
Yes.
Yes, hearing it.
Thank you so much.
Combine chemically in a variety of permutations to form molecules with diverse shapes. The three-dimensional arrangement of atoms in a molecule is referred to as its molecular geometry. Many properties of a substance can be attributed to its molecular geometry. And the molecular geometry of a molecule.
Right, so this is an example of, the videos showing illustrations as well. You could go to your next lesson as well. They have, like questions also. Let's go to some of the earlier lessons as well.
So what I'd like to do now that you have an understanding of the principles behind VSEPR theory, I'd like to go through the different shapes, the common shapes that VSEPR predicts. The first is the linear shape, where the central atom is bonded to 2 other atoms. Now, there aren't any lone pairs on the central atom. And so as a result of that, remember, the whole concept is to get the atoms and their electron clouds to be as far away from each other as possible. And so if the central atom is bonded to two others, as in the case of, let's say, BeCl2, that shape then is referred to as a linear shape. Okay, because the two clouds of chlorine cannot get any further apart from each other than through a linear structure. And that, of course, represents 180 degrees. So here, let's take a look at this model. Okay,
Gotcha. I won't go through the whole thing. It's just to illustrate what the classes are like, what the notes are. So you have illustrations. Someone is guiding you. Notice he's showing you an actual model there. You have illustrations here. You'll also have videos as well, as I showed you earlier on also. So you have a lot of different approaches as well to teaching that is being used throughout the course. So this is what, one of the courses actually look like, right? So you'll have access to these, and you can go at your own pace and determine how much you want to learn at a particular time, etc. Okay. Now let's look at features of the learning management system. So there's the parent portal as well. So if it is for your child, you also have access to the parent portal where you can monitor your child's progress, right? See their marks, communicate directly with teacher, etc. You have 24/7 access to courses and evaluations, right, etc. Then there's reporting and tracking where you can see online, you can use an online tracking tool to monitor progress, remind students of outstanding work, etc. So these are different things that are available as part of the course. Now, how will you be assessed? I did mention earlier on that 30% is the final exam, but 70% of the course is as you assess over using coursework, which includes assignments, essays, maybe a test, portfolio, etc., versus a final exam, right? And the final exam now, so just a note, the final exam, so these 70% is submitted over via the portal, but the final exam now is done at CTS College now. So ideally, if you're in Trinidad, you would arrange, it must be proctored, so we can do it at CTS College, or we could arrange at another venue for you if you need. But the only thing is, if you want to change venue, there'll be an additional cost for the venue change as well, right? Because we'll have to get someone else to proctor you. But ideally, to do the final exam, you will arrange for when you'd like to have it done, and we will ensure that we have resources available so that you can do the test. So you can schedule the test, the final exam, when you are ready for it, okay? And what kind of support is available? Question? All right. So in terms of the support available, all learning materials, all textbooks are included as part of OVS. You'll have guidance and career counselor support throughout the program. You'll have access to a program manager at CTS College. You'll have access to your counselors on the OVS platform as well, right? You'll have access to Ontario certified teachers assigned to your course as well as part of the OVS program. You'll have ongoing academic support provided by the OCT as well, which is the Ontario certified teacher. You'll have one-on-one meeting with your teacher as well. University career counselors will be assigned, and assistance with your university application if you need as well, okay? Apart from that, OVS is throwing in a few freebies such as free university writing preparation course, free health and wellness course, free digital literacy program as well to help you in your preparation for those of you who are signing up for a course. So those are some of the freebies you get. As I indicated, they will also assist you with your university application process as well, but we could always look at that after you've completed the course in terms of what they do to assist you with your university application, right? And when can I start? Well, here's the beautiful thing about this program. There are no fixed start date. You start when you are ready, right? So you determine when you're ready to start. So you can start tomorrow, the day after that. And the only thing now that's stopping you from starting is you, right? And that's one of the wonderful things about this program. You can jump in anytime you're ready. You don't have to wait until 4 months like a specific start date. You start when you are ready to start. Okay, all you have to do is follow the steps outlined in the application process to get started. Now, let's look at the cost of the program, right? Now, this program is also available to persons in Canada, but in order to do this course, you could qualify for a Canadian pricing, but the Canadian pricing, which is much lower, I think it's 549 Canadian dollars per subject, you must have a Canadian student visa. You must have a Canadian student visa. If you do, you'll qualify for the Canadian price of $549. However, most of our students typically don't. And once you're outside of Canada, you typically don't have a Canadian student visa. And therefore, what you're required to do then, if you don't have a Canadian student visa, what you do, you'll have to use the international pricing. So here's what. The international pricing from OVS is $11.99 Canadian per subject. What we did, we told them, here's what. That's a very high price for my students to pay. So what I'm going to do, I will slash my, so basically what I did, I slash my, if you want to call it my cut in terms of the program, if you want to call it that, or whatever contribution to our profit margin, and I've basically reduced your pricing instead. So instead of paying $11.99, which you would normally do as an international student, what you can do now, you can save 500 Canadian and you can get it for $6.99, right? So you are getting it for $6.99 Canadian, which is the best international pricing available for students. If you were to study this program in any, remember I told you 114 different countries students are in, our students get it at the best price, which is $6.99 Canadian, because the other schools are paying as much as $11.99 Canadian. So we have the best pricing. At least that's what OVS advised me in terms of pricing. So we have the most competitive pricing outside of persons who have a Canadian student permit, right? And they get it at the $5.49 Canadian price. But if not, we'll go through if you go through CTS, we have, as I said, we have cut our profit markup and we've given it to you at the lowest price possible, right? So if you do your 7 subjects and you're saving 500 of each subject, you could save as much as 3,500 Canadian dollars in this program. Now, how could you qualify for that? Well, there's some special offers available for you to qualify for that, 500 off each subject. Now, you don't need to sign up for all of them one time. You could just sign up for one at a time, but each subject you'll get that special price, right? So first, you must enroll and pay for at least one subject before the end of December. So you must sign up for at least one subject by the end of December. This is our referral code. So this code here in bracket is what you're using as your referral code. And this here will give you the discounted price that you need. Okay, and that is how you'll get your $500 discount off your course. And every time you sign up, so you sign up for one course, and when you're ready for the next course, you use the same code again and you get another 500 off. So each time you register, you sign up for a course, you get another $500 off. Okay, so that's pretty much how it works. Now, what is the application process? This here is the application process. Okay, so you go to ontariovirtualschool.ca. You choose the course you would like to take. Remember, I suggested the OLC 40 as your first course, right? You add that to the checkout. Now, you could add all the courses you wanted, but I'm recommending don't. Just start with one at a time. Go to add it to your cart, go to the checkout page. You'll click on apply as an international student, and then you click no, that you don't have a valid Canadian educational visa, right? And because of that, the price will change from $5.49 to $11.99. But once you put the CTS College referral code, this is the code here, the price is adjusted to $6.99. And you simply complete the rest of the details on the page, and you make the payment, and you're good to go. And that's pretty much it. And that brings us to the end of our Canadian High School Diploma information session. It's 6 p.m. I think I did it just on time, right? So let's have other questions on stuff that you may have. Any other questions or so you may have, guys? Anyone?
So how do the exams be like multiple choices or something?
Well, some of the assessments will be like multiple choice, but the exam itself would not be necessarily multiple choice only, right? So it may be a combination of structured questions, etc.
Or like a written exam too?
Yes, correct.
Do we have to pay any extra cost for when we come to do the exam at CTS?
Right. If you're doing it at CTS, what we're willing to do for a limited time, we are willing to waive that invigilation fee, but in time, we may offer an invigilation fee. It won't be much though. It might be like 100 TT, simply because we have to assign someone to do the invigilation. For now, and for the first, just a second, I want to be careful with my words because I have to keep my word once I say it. But ideally, at least for the first 4 months of the year, we will waive the invigilation fee. But after that, we will assess it to determine, like how much of a cost it is for us. Because what we've done is we have we have more or less removed our profits or markup from the program. And I'll be very honest with you, we get like 100 Canadian for each student, but the amount we spend on advertising and stuff like that is really not much we get. And we simply deliberately lowered our costs, and ideally, if we had charged $11.99, we would have gotten, I think, well, basically 600 Canadian per student for each subject you do. But because we've cut our profits so that students could get a lower cost, we just get 100 Canadian from it. So ideally, that will go towards the invigilation for the start. But because of we have to manage the program, pay a program manager, and all of those, we will evaluate it as it goes along and maybe introduce a smaller nominal cost for the invigilation, right? But it won't be a very high cost, might be at most $100.
Okay, thank you. One more question I have.
Sure.
When I'm signing up on OBS, do we, as since for people who go in straight into the grade 12, do we have to send them our previous certificates for Form 5 and stuff for the CSEC? And
No,
how long the process might, we don't?
No, you don't need to, right? But the thing is that you should have it available just in case. But once you're a mature candidate, because remember, you have to fill in your date of birth and all of those things, right? And therefore, they will be able to assess your age. And given that's the case, then they will be able to, if they see any flags, then they will basically let us know and we'll reach out to the student, right? So I don't think you will need to absolutely, but you will need to provide evidence of your age. I think you may have to upload an ID if I'm not mistaken, right?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Was there another question you were asking as well?
No, that's it. I just wanted to make sure that as I sign up, it wouldn't take long. Like they have to check the certificates
Oh yeah,
and
no,
wait.
you get accepted one time and you add it right away.
Okay, great.
Any other questions, guys? Don't forget to put your email address on the chat, right? Just to ensure that you get a copy of the recording, a link to the recording. We'll upload the recording on YouTube. So we'll share a link with you so you can view it. And then apart from that, what we will also do, we will send you the slides as well that was used in today's session. Okay.
So when you pay one fee direct for the like one cost for everything, right?
They
Pay no extra cost and nothing.
Only if we introduce an invigilation fee, but there should be no other fee other than for that course. Now, remember, when you're paying for one course. Ideally, I'm recommending you pay for one course at a time. But if you want to do more, you can. But there are no additional hidden fees at all for the program.
Thanks, man.
Welcome. Thank you. All right. So guys, if there are no further questions, then we're going to wrap up at this point and we will send you, please allow 3 hours for the video to complete, to complete the video casting, and then after to upload it to YouTube and then to send the link. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a blessed evening. Don't forget your email addresses, right? Take care. Bye, everyone.
I'm answer.
All right. See you, Chris.